Back at it like bad habits. Time for the next segment of I Think Uncut. Now, what are we talking about now? If you remember my Super Bowl picks, I picked Pittsburgh, I picked the Eagles to make it to the Super Bowl. I gave you my reasons why already, so if you don't remember or you didn't see it, you can go see it. It's still up on the page on the YouTube channel and it ain't going nowhere. So, let's check in after week one. Now I'm not going to do every single week going and checking in. Periodically I will though, and we'll keep it moving like that. Now after week one, both teams lost. I don't care about that. It's week one. Okay, no Le'Veon Bell, no Antonio Brown, and I told you they would lose that game anyway. I mean, did I say Antonio Brown? I meant Martavis Bryant. Antonio Brown was there, and he did Antonio Brown like things. What I meant was Martavis Bryant wasn't there. Now, regardless if they were there or not, I still think they would have lost that game because it was just kind of the perfect storm for New England. Your D-backs talk shit about Gronk. It's the first game of the season, a home opener. They're at home anyway. They don't lose at home. They damn sure don't lose home openers. Talking about New England, Tom Brady, and the Patriots. That doesn't happen, okay? Everything that just happened in the offseason, chip on that boy's shoulder. Edward don't play that, okay? It wasn't going to happen regardless. If Ben and them would have put up more points, Patriots would have just put up more points. I would firmly believe that. Now, and all those errors, man, all those penalties, wide open passes that they were letting Tom and his receivers get, the not covering Gronk after talking all that shit, clowns. But it's early, and like I said, I think I didn't pick them because of their defense anyway. But I'm not really impressed with anybody's defense in the AFC, and I think the Ravens are overrated. And we'll see how that goes. And I damn sure think that they're not going to do much with Terrell Suggs, with him tearing his Achilles and being out for the year. So, moving on. The Steelers pass game. Ben, he did his job. Okay, he was 26 to 38, threw for 351 yards. Antonio Brown had 133 yards and a touchdown. Heath Miller, the security blanket, old reliable. Okay, 8 receptions, 84 yards. Just this wasn't enough. Even D'Angelo Williams, the running back who's filling in for goddamn it Le'Veon Bell right now while he's out, he killed it. He had like what 123 yards. Nah, look, but Tom he came through, did his thing. 25 of 32. He only 7 passes incomplete. Boy, 288. Now there's a lot of dinking and dunking, but that's how they kill you. That's how they won the Super Bowl last year. Gronk had he had 94 yards on 5 receptions and 2 touchdowns. I mean, 3 touchdowns. 3 touchdowns after all that shit you were talking. Who caught the other touchdown was the other tight end, Scott Chandler, on a very, very easy, somewhat of a pick play. They run those so much and they barely, barely get caught nowadays, and whatever. It's just the way of the world. Peyton and them used to love to do it all the time with Wes Walker and them, but Wes is gone now. Julius Thomas is gone now. That Broncos. We'll get to that later though. Now, Julian Edelman, he's always like a huge X factor because he just catches a lot of balls. He's all over the place. 11 receptions for 97 yards. It's just a pain in the ass, man. He's small, he's quick and shifty. Can run all these different routes, and he has great hands, and he's good running after the catch. He's a little tough mother boy. He's tough, all right? It was a good game, somewhat. You know what I'm saying? It's really because it's the first game of the season. I don't care if one of those teams would have got their doors blown off. I'd have watched the whole game anyway, just because I was happy to have real NFL football back in effect. I watched the Oregon-Michigan State game on Saturday. I called that the warm-up because that's what it was. It was the warm-up. It was a pretty entertaining game, but it was the warm-up. NFL here now. Then we got the Eagles Falcons. What a game that was, because the Eagles started off couldn't run the ball, couldn't get any of their short passes in the backfield, those little screens and swing plays, couldn't get any of those to work. They were all over it, blowing up the offensive line, and it just didn't look pretty in the beginning. In the first half, we were down 20-3. There were penalties, some questionable ones. One penalty that was extremely questionable that negated a fumble, sack fumble recovery for the Eagles. That was called on some illegal holding in the secondary on Kiko Alonso. You show the replay, you look at it, it was questionable at best. It was really, really ticky tack. But we're not going to go into all that, okay? Because we're just not. Okay. So we get into the second half, though, and things are looking kind of rough, kind of grim. And then what happens? Sam goes 21-25 in the second half. It was a bunch of passing, 3 touchdowns scored, come back and take the lead, 24-21, and they kick another field goal. 23-24, we're winning still. And, they get another field goal. So, look, they ended up winning the game. There are some things that happened there that, like, some questionable calls. Maybe should have went for a fourth down. Cody Parkey, the kicker for the Eagles, missed a kick. There's some crucialness. I have to try to keep my emotions in check because, as you know, I'm an Eagles fan. But I'm just trying to give you something to break down the game. So let's just go to the numbers. 21-25 was in the second half for Sam Bradford. In the first half, he kind of struggled. He was like 15-28. 15-28. I didn't even write that part down. I didn't write down the half by half, breakdown. I just memorized that part. Overall, he was 26 of 52, 336 yards. Okay, now Darren Sproles, he's always going to be an X factor in these games because he can do so many things. And I told you what they were going to do and start using him even more in the pass game and splitting him out wide. 7 receptions for 76 yards. Jordan Matthews, he's going to be a stud. He had about 10 catches for 102 yards. Okay, Matt Ryan, he did his thing, and they were picking the secondary to part in the first half. In the second half, it was a lot better, even though Julio was still getting off, but it was a lot better. He was able to get more pressure, blitzing from the outside rather than up the middle, while they kept max protecting and using a 7-man front to keep our front 7 back. Matt Ryan threw 33-34. They ran the ball 30 times, 20 yards or 20 carries with Tevin Coleman for 80 yards, and Devontae Freeman, 10 carries for 18 yards. So their running game, they ran the ball a lot, but it was mediocre. It was a mediocre night overall in terms of running. 80 yards. DeMarco, he only rushed the ball 8 times for 9 yards because, like I said, they were blowing it up in the beginning, and Chip went away from it completely because it just wasn't working. And the line wasn't getting any push. I remember there's 2 new starters at the guard positions on the Eagles line. The Falcons, they have new pieces and all that. That's the thing that people focus on the most. But and key pieces on the offense, like the offensive line, there's some newbies in there. So let's take that and give it time to gel. Because I think it'll come full circle and everything's going to be all right. We going to be all right. Anyway, Julio, he had 141 yards and a couple touchdowns. And Roddy White, he had 4 receptions for 84 yards. And it was awful. Those were some big plays that were happening, especially in the first half. But, it ended up being a very close game. There are some good things, there are some bad things. But like I said, I'm not worried. Jordan Matthews said after the game, they asked him, hey, in the second half, what did you guys do differently to start moving the ball and making things work on offense? And he said nothing. We didn't do anything different. We just executed better. Just give it time. Let everybody gel, because when you have 2 new offensive linemen especially, it's not just a matter of are they good enough, okay? You have to have time to mesh with the tackles and the center so everybody is in sync, know what the other one is going to do. There were a couple of defensive plays where the defensive and the defensive tackle run a stunt which is, of course, where they kind of switch. And sometimes it can confuse the offensive linemen if they're not in sync. That happened a couple of times. Give that time; it'll work itself out, and this line will be stout, just like it has been the past couple of years. Now, it's not time to panic for either team. They both lost in week one, and that's okay. It's going to be a long season. It's going to be a long season, and as long as these teams start clicking at the right time, just like a few different teams have done in the recent past, like Baltimore and like the Giants. I hate invoking the Giants' name, but that's what they did. Then everything is going to be all right. And I truly believe that everything is going to be all right. Holla.